Hello, hello. My name is Gustavo, and welcome to Elixir Pro. Here we discuss the best way that you become an Elixir developer in only 3 months. And today we're going to be talking about how to set up your machine to use Elixir. So this configuration I've been using for a little while, and what I think it's essential, what I noticed is that when I use those tools that I'm going to introduce to you, I noticed that I had more performance when I'm developing. So why is it essential to set up your machine to use Elixir? So as you could see, and I'm gonna show you that I've recorded, I have a blog post here on DevTools where I'm explaining to you what is important and why. So here, why it's so important this configuration is because I noticed that I can work in any projects using Elixir, and I am productive and I have performance. Also, you can perform faster, and also it's just a couple tools that you need. You don't need to install a lot of things in your local machine to use Elixir. Another question that I have here is, do you remember when it was necessary for your career? So I noticed projects that I worked, like people using kind of tools, but what was essential for my performance and being productive, I noticed that I had a lot of tools, a lot of plugins on my VS Code, a lot of plugins, a lot of database in my on my computer. Also, workbenches as well to use with Postgres, MySQL, sometimes Oracle, and Elixir. Basically, you only need to use Postgres and tools to develop an Elixir using backend, front-end. So that is why I notice if I have kind of tools, it will help me to be more performant, have more performance. So first of all, so what I'm showing to you is if you are using Mac, I highly recommend you to install them. So first, the ZSH. I don't know how it works. I think we have it on Linux, but in Mac, we have it by default. So this one, it's a terminal. So as you can see, I have an IDE here. And this, it's going to provide to you a nice terminal, and with using kind of couple plugins, you'll have a fancy terminal here. So curl, when you need to use like HTTP request, for example, you are consuming API and someone gives to you a curl, this plugin will help you with that. Fira code, it's good to developers, so it's easier to read, and also it will help you to see your terminal. I like this font a lot, and also it's free. Some of my friends buy some fonts, but this one, it's really, really nice. So this article I'm going to provide to you, you will see on this link here on this video. You can access that. You will see that I have like links to curl, Fira code, on my ZSH. This one I would like to show you because this one will provide you like a better way to see your terminal, like the Git, your branch, sometimes the language that you are using, all configurations that I've been using on my using the ZSH, and also my configurations to ZSH, my alias, everything I will provide to you, okay? So the most important is the Elixir. If you're using Elixir, you need to install it. So what you're gonna see is when you click on the link on this article, you will see that you have the distributions like Mac, Linux, BSD, even Docker we have here in Raspberry. For example, I'm using Mac, so I just need to execute the command brew install Elixir, and everything's gonna work. So if you never use Elixir before, what I recommend you to do is watch other videos here on the YouTube channel for you to learn Elixir. So this one is our terminal using Elixir, and I can do anything here after installing the language. Another one, and for me this is one of the most important as well, is the Phoenix. Phoenix is a web framework to use with Elixir. So super nice. So if you had the experience to use Phoenix to build the REST APIs or even Live View, it's fantastic framework. So I migrated to Elixir just because they have Phoenix. Git, of course, you need Git because it's going to help you to control version code. And for me, I love Docker. So for me, it's essential because everything that I've been talking in this video, it's about making our life as a developer easier. And Docker, for example, when you install like Redis in your local machine, MongoDB, even Kafka, you have to follow a lot of steps like download, then next. But Docker will help us. Like when you finish using the database, you can only stop the database, for example, Postgres. Also, if you want to delete everything, it's much more straightforward. I use Kafka a lot, so as you could see, I will provide to you this script right here, my guest. And this one is a Kafka Compose where you're going to install the Zookeeper and the Kafka as well. So it's really nice. So you're not going to have problems to install Kafka on your local machine. And the most important is, by default, when you start Phoenix projects, the default database is Postgres. What I recommend you to do. So right here, as you can see as well, you will see that I'm creating a bridge to our application. So I'm not going to explain to you Docker here, but if you follow those steps here, you will have a Postgres in your local machine easily. So you only need to create a bridge. And when you run this command, I'm saying that we are going to use this bridge. We're going to define the Postgres password as Postgres. So you're not going to need to go to Phoenix project or in your Phoenix projects and change the password because you'll have this password by default. Also, one of the most important things is where are you going to deploy your app? So we have today Elixir. The most common for Elixir developers is Fly and Elixir. I use both. Which one I recommend? It's up to you. For example, Fly, it's much more straightforward. And Elixir as well. It depends which one you want to use. But you can install the Elixir easily in your local machine. I mentioned to you above about the Docker. So by default, when you use Docker here, let me click here to show you. By default, for example, here it's installed on Ubuntu. I don't know if when you install using Ubuntu, you have this one. So right here, by default, you already have the Docker Compose, and also in my Docker here, when I go to the dashboard, I can go over to my tools here, and I can use Kubernetes as well. What I recommend you to do is, if you want to use the Kubernetes on your local machine, I always use like enable, try the stuff. After trying and after testing, I reset my Kubernetes cluster, because I don't want to spend my memory and my CPU to process Kubernetes when I'm not using. So before I always deploy using like Google Cloud, Google Kubernetes Engine, or EKS, which is Elastic Kubernetes Services on AWS, I like testing locally first. Also, as I mentioned to you, those are the tools that I've been using not only for simple software development with Elixir, but I'm using as well to, for example, if you wanna use Kubernetes, those are the tools that I install in my local machine. Like Kubernetes comes default when you install the Docker. K9s. What do you have here on K9s? It's a really nice way to manage your clusters with Elixir, so with Kubernetes. So you don't need to execute the commands. One of the things that I highly recommend is you to learn the commands, and after learning it, start using the K9s. kubectx is, for example, I have a cluster in my I have a cluster locally, I have a cluster on AKS, and I have a cluster on Google Cloud. Which one should I use? So I can change the Kubernetes cluster easily when I have this plugin. So for me, it's amazing, fantastic. Kubernetes CLI is related to brew install when you want to execute commands to Kubernetes. How? This one is a way that it's fantastic this way, because you can manage your Kubernetes application, manage and it makes your life much more easier to configure your Kubernetes cluster. So this one is fantastic. Couple of them like Kubernetes K9s, kubectx, Kubernetes CLI, and Helm, it's more related to Kubernetes. If you're not going to use it, you don't need to install. Next one. So I've been using a couple plugins. Like we have a SQL plugin to use SQL to connect to the database. But as for me, the Beaver is one of the best. I've been using them a lot, and because I can access like MongoDB, and also I can access the SQL. And for me, the most important is create query using Postgres. For me, it works well. I mentioned to you about the Kafka. One of the plugins that I use a lot is the Conductor, and Conductor will help you to remove the complexity about the Kafka. And also it will help you to test and check your Kafka clusters, your queues and topics with Kafka. People usually prefer using the Postman. I like using the Insomnia. For me, it's much more organized, much more simpler to read. I like that a lot. Let's talk about Cloud SDKs. So, as I mentioned, I'm not going to install all of them because I already have it, but I will provide this article will give you will see all the tools that you need. For example, here you have the Google Cloud SDK to access the Google Cloud services in your local machine. So I use that a lot. AWS Client and EKSCTL to manage Kubernetes and to manage your AWS account. And the most important here is the plugins that you are going to use in your VS Code. For example, those are the plugins that I've been using, like Color Highlight, Elixir LS, Env, Git Graph, Live Share. This one I'm not using a lot. This one is to make indentation when you're using Phoenix. And for us, we use Phoenix, Tailwind, CSS IntelliSense. It's crucial to help you to develop, to build web applications with Phoenix. So I highly recommend you to use that especially. And as you can see, after you install those plugins, you will see that I've provided to you my configurations. So right here, you can get my configurations and only copy and paste in your local machine. And this will provide you like the Fear code installation, the dependencies, everything that I'm using. If you ask me about the theme, I'm using the Dracula theme. I like that a lot. It's dark and I love it, but it's up to you if you want to use that. Shortcuts. So right here, I provided to you my ZSH configuration. So right here, you will see that all the plugins that I'm using, like the spaceship plugins, Git, Docker, Elixir, gcloud, Helm, kubectl, and Mix. Also, my shortcuts. For example, we have Docker PS, Docker PSA, Docker start. For example, this command I use a lot because I need to install my Postgres database. This one is fantastic. This is one of the most command that I've been using. Docker images, Docker compose commands as well. For example, when you watch some videos, I just hit the I letter and I start the IX. I ask to start a mixed project, also to install dependencies, reset database, set up database as well, start Phoenix application, run the tests, Git commands as well. So those are the shortcuts that I'm using on my ZSH, and I provided this guide to you as well. What else that we have here? So I provided you some plugins that I've been using, like first, install the zinit, because this one will help you to install commands like to install plugins in your zinit, your ZSH. Sorry, my bad here. And plugins that I've been using. So first, fast syntax highlights to recognize commands. For example, when I run D or like Docker here, as you could see, it appears for me and I can check that the command already exists. Auto suggestion, as you could see, for example, this is more about when I mention to you like Docker, recognize that it's a command. When I say like DO and hit the tab, it will give me some options here. So a pretty cool plugin as well. ZSH completion is just to add some couple commands. And I think that is all the tools that I've been using. I showed to you my configurations. I mentioned to you the Tailwind IntelliSense plugin. For me, it's nice because I've been using with LiveView a lot. Git Graph, it's important as well because you can come over here to your Git, for example. And as you can see, you will have this icon here. When I click, I can see the graph and what's happening with those branches. What branch was closed, which one was merged. It's pretty cool tool. I think I've mentioned all of them. Color highlights more about, I think this one, am I using the color highlight here? Let me check. Yes, it is. The color highlights is more about, like, for example, FFF, and we got the color, or like FF0, we got another one. It's more about this stuff. What else that we have here? Material icons theme, I like because the icons so that we have, so you can create your own icons as well. Pretty nice tool. I think beautify. This was one of the best configurations that I found to use with Phoenix. I think that we have another options, but I will take a look and keep you in touch and update if something's changed. I think those are the tools. This is the article. If you see, if I spend time here explaining to you how to install, it will take too much time. Provided to you an article with all the tools, and not only the tools, but how you can install, because all of them is so straightforward to follow and install the dependencies, plugins, softwares, everything that you need. I hope you really enjoy in this class. See you the next video, and bye bye.